Welcome back to another edition of the Eight-Figure Attorney Podcast. I'm Seth Bader, the Eight-Figure Attorney, and I'm here with a very special guest, Matthew Wetherington.
How are you doing, man?
Matthew, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming down. Matthew is the founding attorney of Wetherington Law Firm here in Atlanta, Georgia. He is one of the youngest attorneys ever selected for the Daily Report's On the Rise. Matthew doesn't want me to toot his horn, but I think he deserves it. He is in the Daily Report's Hall of Fame after winning one of Georgia's largest car wreck settlements, and you were selected to the Lawyers Rising Star, or have been for the last 6 consecutive years. Is that right?
I think that is right.
And I think you mentioned earlier that there was some other recognition you've received that's you're pretty proud of.
Oh yeah, the Daily Report selected us as one of the top 3 personal injury law firms for 2019, 2020, and hopefully this coming year as well.
That's remarkable. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Do you know if that was based upon certain outcomes, or was that based on?
That was voting by attorneys in Georgia.
Wow.
So it was open voting for all lawyers, and
really the highest compliment.
That's why we're very proud of it. It's one of the very few awards that I think is very much merit based.
Yeah, well, congratulations again.
Thank you.
Matt, I know you're really you make a huge impact with your cases and in the community. Talk about your firm's mission.
Sure. I mean, our mission at the end of the day is to take on causes, not cases. And we really want to work with people who come to us and say, it's really not about the money. And we want people who are going to say, like, I just don't want what happened to me to happen to somebody else. And that's what really gets us going in the morning. That's what we fight for every day. Like, I can't think of how many clients that we've been with who were just like, look, money's not going to bring my family member back. Money's not going to give me my leg back or my arm back or make it so that I don't wake up with pain. Mm-hmm. But this problem should have never happened. This is something that was completely avoidable. And if someone doesn't do something, someone else is going to get hurt. Like, those are the people that we want to work with and that we kind of target our law firm to accommodate and help. And that, to me, is what makes us successful, because we're passionate about every single case that comes in the door. And if we're not passionate about it, we're going to refer it out and we're going to give it to someone who is going to be passionate about it. And that's our whole mission. And I wouldn't put it into one category. Like, we do personal injury, we do class actions, we do appeal work, we've done business torts. We've done kind of a whole category of things, and really the only overarching category is that something really messed up is happening, and someone needs to step up and fix it. And that's where we come in, and we can get really excited about a whole lot of different things.
I'm curious, where does that passion come from?
I mean, I think it's about being bullied as a child. I think it's about being growing up kind of without having significant means. It's about seeing kind of the impacts that not just wealth disparity, but power disparity plays out amongst everyone. Like, it's just not fair at the end of the day for people who are of equal intelligence, equal heart, equal mind to not have the same opportunities simply because some corporation decides that I'm going to target this population or this group of people or this consumer to make more money at their expense and just drive them into the ground until they can't recognize or reach their full potential. Like, that's not right. And it happens all day, every day. And in a lot of these cases, they're doing it completely above board and it's completely legal. And it's about finding ways to say, the system's broken. And we're going to step up and we're going to fix the system. And if you're taking advantage of the system in an illegal way, we're going to drive you into the ground. And we're going to make certain that you can't do this to other people. And we're going to I don't want to say make an example, but we're going to make it in such a way that someone else is going to look at this and say, you know what, I don't want to deal with that. Let's maybe do it the legal way, or at least not go at it the same way that we have been.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm sure you have so many cases where you've been able to make that kind of impact. Like, is there a case that really comes to mind, or a few cases where you've been able to really make a difference, not just for your clients, but for society?
I mean, there are a couple of cases that come to mind. I mean, for me, it really all goes back to the very first case that I had. Wow. I represented a 17-year-old quadriplegic kid who had a tread separation from his tire. Vehicle rolled over, he became a quadriplegic. And we're fighting against the tire company, and it's just like knockdown, drag-out fight. And it just didn't make sense to me. Like, this is something where, like, this kid needed help, needed treatment, and they were just dragging it out. Like, I couldn't move the case forward. I couldn't even go and lose my case. It was just, like, win or lose, like, it wasn't happening.
Right.
It was just delay. And then the kid died before we could even get a resolution on his case. And it just, it killed me. Like, I felt that I had failed as a person, not just as a lawyer, to move his case forward. And later on, we realized that, the whole system for tires is just, like, messed up. Like, there's a lot of problems in the system, a lot of safety issues. And the tire this kid was riding on was very old. And no one knows that tires have an expiration date. No one knows how to even read the expiration date that's on a tire. And more so, they don't know that there's so many recalled tires that are out there. And the reason they don't know that is because there's no place to go and see whether your tire is recalled or not.
I see.
And so I said, okay, cool, this is horrible. And so I made the database. So I created the only national database of recalled tires in America, and we made it available for free for everybody. And then we went to Congress, and we went to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the NTSB, which is the National Traffic Safety Board, and we said, hey, I shouldn't do your job for you. Make this database, make it available. Here, I'm going to give it to you. I did it. It's done. You take it, put it on your website, let people come and look at their tires. They said, no, we don't. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it ourselves. We're not gonna trust you. How do we know it's gonna be? I was like, fine. You guys need to make your own database. Like, to this date, they still don't have it. I'm still the only person out there providing recalled tires for people. Like, and it's that kind of stuff that just happens over and over and again. And every week we get calls from people who are either seriously injured because their tires was recalled, and Walmart or some big shop that should know better didn't pull the recall tire off their vehicle. And we're sitting there banging on the table saying, hey, just come look at my database. Yeah, you can have it for free. Just look and check if these tires are recalled. It's not hard. Or this tire is more than 6 years old or more than 10 years old. The manufacturers, we've now convinced them to put out an aging statement to say, hey, the tires need to be replaced after this time. But some of these retailers still are like, oh, but we don't want to deal with that. We're not going to tell people that they're driving on 10, 15-year-old tires that are going to blow up in any second. And so it's not one case at the end of the day that's like, okay, how are you making a difference? It's every single one of these cases is an opportunity to come in and say, hey, guess what? Someone else just got killed or seriously injured because their tire was 10 years old, and some major retailer that's making $1 billion a year couldn't be bothered to implement a policy that says, check the tire and see if it's dangerously aged or recalled. And so it's about just creating the track record of, this is a problem. Someone needs to do something about it, whether it's a law, whether it's a regulation, whether it's just you need to get a verdict that's several multiples of what you make in a year so that, maybe I'll never collect it. But so it's at least showing that, this is unacceptable.
I'm curious, is that case what led to the Tire Safety Group?
Yes. And so the Tire Safety Group is the nonprofit that provides, the tire recall lookup tools. There's an iPhone app, there's an Android app, there's a website. You just go in, you plug in a number that's on your tire, and it'll tell you how old it is, if it's recalled, that kind of stuff.
Is that designed for the consumer?
Yes.
Or for the corporations?
Both, but the Tire Safety Group is a consumer-facing organization.
I see.
And so the database, though, is whoever wants to come in and use it.
Gotcha. And so I'm curious. It sounds like, well, you mentioned you don't have any specific specialty, but it sounds like tire safety or I guess defective tires or expired tires is something you guys specialize in.
It's anything that helps people make informed decisions about their health, safety, or financial welfare. Like,
Understand.
if it's whether it's, a dangerous tire, whether it's a product that's, unsafe to use, whether it's a bank or an organization that is, engaged in some sort of financially exploitative practice.
Gotcha.
Like, we want to know about that. We want to get involved. I mean, like, we've sued literally every big bank in America in class actions for, stealing money from people. And, it's anything where you're looking at it and you're saying, like, A, of all, this shouldn't be happening, and B, it also looks hard.
Yeah.
Like, if our specialty is just we do hard things, I wish that I could make my niche, admitted liability, big truck wreck cases. Like, if I thought I could get away with that, then I would do it.
Sure.
But, I'm too young and too angry at the end of the day to be happy doing that.
For sure. I mean, and I guess there's gonna be enough business because these kinds of problems exist all the time everywhere.
Yeah, and they're not going to get better anytime soon. Like, we're playing on an unlevel playing field where the consumers are an afterthought and the large corporations are the ones making the laws, and it's because they don't have a voice at the end of the day. Like, the consumers really don't have a voice. Like, it's not that our legislators or our regulatory agencies aren't willing to listen. It's that there's no one really speaking on their behalf. And no matter how much time I spend talking about issues that come across my desk or that I care about, there's a million other places where they're voiceless, where no one's given any opportunity to be heard, and the consumers have just no representation. And so we're just going to continue to move along and kind of fill the gaps once things get too far gone in one area. And and so it's like pushing a giant rock up a hill. Like, I don't know that our work will never be done. I can have 10 lifetimes, and I'm not going to make much of a dent, in terms of balancing the scales of equity. But for the people that we do have the opportunity to work with, like, we make a real difference, and I'm proud of that.
It's remarkable. I think trial lawyers, personal injury lawyers get a bad rap because I think people just assume that all of us are just out there for the money, and certainly that exists. But I think attorneys like you that are principled and really focused on making a difference, there's more. I think more of you than the other group, and I think I don't know that the consumers and the community really realizes the impact that we can make.
No, and I think it's hypocrisy to say that, like, lawyers have a bad reputation, because when something bad happens to even the bad people, they call lawyers. Like, they're not going to go in and say, like, oh no, this bad thing happened to me and I'm just going to suck it up and move on because lawyers are bad. It's all marketing exploitative behavior to make people distrust and think that lawyers are a bad thing. But for lawyers, we wouldn't have workers' compensation or Occupational Safety Hazard Act. We wouldn't have safe drinking water. We wouldn't have, safe air to breathe. We wouldn't have seat belts. We wouldn't have literally anything that we enjoy today. I mean, for your people who are listening right now, the FTC, like, the reason that we have regulatory ability to have the internet, have, the airwaves where people maybe listen to this on their earphone, is because trial lawyers went in and said, hey, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have a monopoly or an exploitative behavior from corporations where they just own our airwaves. Like, they belong to the people. And that's because of the work that trial lawyers put in to make sure that that was available. Like, lawyers, I think, have a great reputation when you need them.
Sure.
And then when it's convenient to use them as a fake opponent, then it's like, oh, lawyers are bad. They're all just really greedy. I don't know any greedy trial lawyers. And I work with a ton of lawyers. I've yet to meet one. And I say that as the truth on both the plaintiff side and on the defense. Without a doubt, 100% of the lawyers that I have met are good, decent people who are trying to do what they think is right. Sometimes they go about it in a improper way. They engage in behavior that is unprofessional or that is not right. But at the end of the day, they're doing what they think is right. And I think that the greedy trial lawyer, I think, is a myth.
I agree. I want to change gears.
Sure.
I want to go from tires to, we're talking about tires, but I want to talk about wheels and booting.
Oh, yes.
You sort of appeared on my radar, it feels like about 2 or 3 years ago, and it seemed like you were really active trying to fix some issues, because here in Atlanta, cars are getting booted, at least, and then we're getting booted all the time. Tell me about that cause. What motivated that? What was that cause? And where do things stand today?
Here's the deal. It's not just Atlanta.
Okay.
You can go and park at a restaurant or a shopping center outside of Atlanta, go into a nearby restaurant and get a meal, or go to the business that has the parking lot. Come back out, someone has put a boot on your vehicle.
Sure.
They're going to charge you upwards of $2,600 for the removal of that boot.
Mm.
You then go and you say, obviously this is criminal. You call the police. The police come out there. The police say, I'm sorry, this is a civil matter. I can't help you.
Mm.
And you then are then stuck. You either pay $2,600, $1,300, $500, whatever, ransom that they want, or you don't get your vehicle back. And you have to then call up a lawyer and sue them. And that's happening all day, every day. Someone listening to this right now knows someone who had that just happen to them, I guarantee you.
Sure.
And that's what's going on everywhere. And it's the Wild West.
Mm.
And then in Atlanta, where they have rules, they have regulations, they're trying to stop that, they don't even care.
Mm.
And they say, hey, this is a civil matter. No one has told me that what I'm doing is illegal, so why should I stop doing something that, I know is wrong, I've been told is wrong, and it's just going on. It's going on into tens and tens of millions of dollars worth of bootings. And so we got involved after one of my friends, Kevin Patrick, got booted, and we said, let's just look at it. Like, obviously this is messed up, but you only paid $75. Look, I want to help people, but we do got to stay in business.
Sure.
And then we looked at it, and I was shocked that it was so pervasive and that it was so criminal, I think is the right word to use there. And so we started working with local law enforcement to crack down on it. When we realized that the problem is even bigger than what individual law enforcement agencies, we started working with local governments. And then the local governments kind of got overwhelmed with the booting companies and their lobbyists and all that kind of stuff. So we finally went up to the state legislature, and now we're still finding out with them up in the state legislature to try and put some guardrails on a very exploitative, very bad practice. And we very recently were in the Georgia Supreme Court on a case that we filed class actions, which is groups of people suing for the same kind of problem.
Okay.
We got certified in the trial court for one of our classes where they were charging, I think, $650 a boot. The Court of Appeals affirmed it. We then went up to the Supreme Court. We just had oral argument. No one knows how they're going to rule. I mean, we're cautiously optimistic because I think that we're right, and I think that we are not just legally right, but I think we're morally right. So I'm optimistic the Supreme Court's going to do the right thing.
Sure.
But you never know. And so once the Supreme Court speaks, then I think that's going to spur some legislative activity.
Sure.
And then we'll also get some movement, hopefully with these individual booting companies.
Now, are you still taking on cases like that, or are you going to see what happens with this one?
We've just got so many that I don't know that more of those cases is going to help anything.
I understand.
Like I feel like I have enough to do what I need to do on that front. But it's a very exciting thing solely because it's just they're so unrepentant about what they're doing. I think at this point they honestly enjoy getting away with doing something that they know is wrong as long as they can.
A lot of your clients are millennials, is that right?
Yes.
Tell me first why millennials, and how do you? I love marketing, and I'm curious how you sort of came to that niche, and I know I'm sure you represent others that are not a part of the millennials, but like, why millennials, and how do you market to them, and what is the message? If you have any specific messaging for them.
There are several reasons why I think that we resonate well with millennials. First and foremost is that this is your largest demographic of working people in America right now. Like, there are more millennials than there are any other demographic. Mm-hmm. And those are the people who are just kind of, for the very first time, experiencing kind of the exploitative nature of interacting with kind of like the real world. Like when you're filling out, a mortgage application, or you're trying to get a loan, or you're trying to open a business, or you're trying to, raise your children safely. Like, only millennials are really having children at this point. And you're encountering these problems, and you're saying, this is ridiculous. Like, I think that millennials, I've been very impressed with their service hearts, is the way I would describe it, because they're not satisfied with simply just getting money and moving on. Like, they say, hey, this needs to stop, and they believe that they can stop it. And I think that that's kind of a shift. It's not necessarily unique to millennials, but just that they happen to be at the right place in history, where you have more access to information, you have more access to platforms, and you say, you know what, I see this problem and I want to fix it. I want to solve this problem, and that just dovetails so perfectly with me as a person.
Sure.
That it's just, to me, it's a natural fit.
Yeah.
Where you've got a ready pool of people who are saying, hey, we want to do something about this, or I was involved in a really traumatic thing, and like, I don't want it to happen to somebody else. And I'm the person who's standing out there saying, I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so for me, it's just about presenting my true and honest self as widely as I can. And I think that attracts the kinds of people that I want to work with.
Yeah. No, I mean, what I'm hearing is that they just align with you and your values.
Yep.
And I get that. I mean, I think when I built my law firm really mostly representing the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Now, I am not Hispanic, but I grew up immersed in a Spanish and a Hispanic culture. And in South Florida, I come from a family where my father grew up with nothing, and so he had a tremendous work ethic. And what I found was that there was a lot of alignment between my values and my work ethic and the Latino community. So not the millennial community, but I can appreciate and understand the importance of alignment with your clients and also with your team.
No, I appreciate that. Tell me a little bit more about kind of that work ethic that you're talking about.
Sure.
Like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think when I think of work ethic, the first thing, the first person I think about is my father. My father, as I mentioned, he grew up poor from an immigrant home in Brooklyn, and so he built himself. He was a self-made man, put himself through school, went through the military, and ultimately overcame a lot of obstacles to become a very successful neurologist. And so I saw a role model that was up early. He was always reading. He was a lifelong learner. He was really committed to doing good in the world and to working hard. And I think he understood that without hard work, you really could not be successful. And so for me, when I think of work ethic, I think of him, and I think that it's really critical that a person really gives whatever it is they're doing their all, and that they are committed, that they are persistent and resilient, and that they are continuously learning. And I think, I just think that one has to be humble and recognize that there's always an opportunity to learn and just to stay hungry.
Is your dad still around?
He's not. Well, he's around in my heart, but he died about seven or 8 years ago.
Did you get a chance to tell him what you just told me?
I didn't. I mean, we talked a lot, and he knew that I admired him tremendously. But no, I didn't get him to. I did not get a chance to tell him exactly what I told you.
No. I mean, that's it's a good way to honor his memory, though.
Certainly.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah.
My dad's kind of getting to the point now where I'm trying to make sure that I've done the things that I want to do, and make sure that he knows how much I appreciate him and
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. And so it's really nice to hear you say that about your father.
Sure. Thank you.
I think a lot of people don't have those kinds of role models
Sure.
growing up, and I think it makes a big difference.
Mm.
And, for me, it wasn't just, so my mother passed when I was 13, and I think it took my dad kind of through in a tailspin. They got married when they were very, very young.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me, it was about the other people in the community who like stepped up to be like, okay, Matt, you've got potential. You're not going to fail. Like we're gonna make sure that like you're doing the things you're supposed to do. Yeah. You know, and it was, you know, that community of people kind of coming forward and being like, hey, let me help you. And my dad is just busting his butt trying to like keep us afloat. Like you know, he's working 3 jobs, he's stocking shelves at night and like just busting his butt, like just working to like keep everything going. You know, while I've also got other people in the community who are coming forward and saying like, hey, have you looked at college? Have you? Because I was the first person in my generation that went to, from my family that went to college. Like I didn't even know what college was until I was like a senior in high school, which that says more about how dumb I was as a child than it does about like my surroundings to like not make that record. Like I took the SAT like, you know, second semester of my senior year. I was like, you need that? You know, but it was like having people come up and say that. And I think it's important that like we recognize and respect and say thank you to like the people kind of who like mold us in that, because it's like pure luck at the end of the day. Like, you know, like there are a lot of people who work really hard and they just don't run into the luck that we do. You know, and you know, there's that saying that like the people, you know, you create your own luck by giving yourself more opportunities and by working hard. And there's some truth to that.
Sure.
You know, like you keep working hard, you're going to get those opportunities. But it also, there's like an element of luck. I mean, so like with this podcast, it's, you know, talking to lawyers who are kind of getting where they are, and I think it's important for them to recognize that some of this stuff really is luck. Like you come in and you get a big case, you know, in your first week of your career, or you're like me and you happen to work on a very significant case like from the jump, and it like stirs something in you that gives you this like passion to do something other stuff, and it's okay. I think if it takes time to find that. If it's, you know, you're failing, because like at the end of the day, like it's luck. Like I swear to you, it is just pure luck. Like but for like 5 or 6 massive cases that came my way, then, you know, I wouldn't be sitting in the seat that I am with the firm that I have. And I know a lot of people who are a whole lot smarter than me and work just as hard who didn't stumble into those cases. And so it's about like giving yourselves, you know, having the perseverance to know that like it doesn't make you a bad lawyer or a bad person if you're not coming into that success early on.
Sure.
But also about having the work ethic that you're talking about to give yourself more opportunities to get lucky, to not get discouraged, to not give up, to go in and say, hey, tomorrow, you know, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to bust my butt and I'm going to find something about this case that makes it special. Like really early on, I was working on slip and fall cases against Walmart. Like, and I thought, I'm going to make that my niche because there's just so many of them.
Sure.
Like, I'm just going to sue Walmart all day, every day, and I'm going to do it the best. And I got in there, and I'm doing a bunch of them. I'm telling people about what success I'm having in these Walmart cases. And, like, they just started coming, despite the fact there are a million people who are doing slip and falls. But by just telling people, like, I'm passionate about this.
Sure.
Like, this is something I care about. It's about, you know, fighting against this company. It's about, you know, developing new ways of doing this. And they're like, cool, I'm going to let you do it. You know, even though you're a baby lawyer who doesn't seem to know very much, like you care and you're working hard, and that's worth a lot.
It's worth a whole lot.
You know, and so like, I think that's, if people listen to this pick up on one thing, it's about like finding that thing that you care about, finding something, even if it's you're doing cases that you don't enjoy right now, there's something in those cases that you can make a difference on. Like find the thing that annoys you the most about that case and then fix it. Like, come up with a plan. Maybe it's like, hey, this law needs to be rewritten. Maybe it's that, you know, the evidentiary body hasn't been developed yet. Sure. Like, take that case, develop the body. Talk to your client. Say, here's what I want to do. Here's what our expectations are. Here's where we're going. Do you want to come with me? And if the client says yes, go. Like, go the full distance, whatever it is. Like, I've worked with tons of attorneys. So I run a law firm incubator. So I've worked with a ton of lawyers who are starting their own firms. And every single one of them, and it's everything you can imagine from IP to environmental to whatever, every single one of them are like, you know, actually there is this thing that like just drives me crazy. Okay. And it has to be changed. And well, I was like, cool. You know how you get clients? You know how you become a thought leader? Go fight the fight. Win, lose, or draw. You're going to have people who rally to your cause. Whatever it is, like you don't have to win. You just have to go out there and fight, and you have to fight hard, and you have to have a plan. Whether you, I mean, like think about how many people have convinced people to do really, stupid things, pyramid schemes and all that stuff, and it's because they had a plan. People love someone with a plan. Like, you don't have to have a perfect plan, but you do need a plan.
Sure.
And I think that as long as you're pursuing that, you're going to find great success. I mean, like, that's one of the things that I really respect about you, is that, like, you've had this, I don't want to call it like a master plan, because it's evolved so much over time, but like you're always 3 or 4 steps ahead.
Sure.
And that's not an accident, and that's not luck. That's thinking. That's planning. That's picking your shots. That's saying, I'm going to give myself an opportunity to be successful by going and doing these next things.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no question. I had to take a chance, but I have had a vision. The vision has evolved. It's gotten much bigger over time. But initially, my vision was really just to help people and to make a difference. And then when I started to make a difference, I realized I could make a much bigger difference in the lives of the clients. And then I realized I wasn't just impacting the clients, but I was impacting the families. And then I realized I wasn't just impacting the clients and their families, but I was impacting the community. And then I realized I was impacting my team members. And so the vision has really evolved in such a way that our focus, our vision for our law firm is much bigger than just helping the clients. It's about inspiring hope and empowering people.
Yeah. And
I think along the way, I didn't have a documented plan initially. I don't know that I had a specific plan, but along the way I've learned a lot, and I've found some really great mentors. And I definitely think mentors are a really huge part of success, and they've opened my eyes to what's possible. And they've also, shared with me the importance of planning.
Can you tell me about how you're trying to be a mentor to others? I mean, you're surely giving back.
Well, so I've always loved to help others. And so, I've learned, fortunately and unfortunately, I've learned a lot of lessons the hard way. And so for me, I take a lot of pride and a lot of satisfaction in helping other lawyers and entrepreneurs in growing their businesses, and getting off the ground, and hopefully I can help them avoid a lot of the mistakes that I've made and sort of expedite their learning curve.
All right. When you say entrepreneurs, is this just lawyers, or is this?
Well, I mean, I primarily work with lawyers, but as a lawyer who owns a very large law firm, I also identify as an entrepreneur, and so I'm happy to work with and speak with any business owner, any entrepreneur. And Luis and I'm sure you know my partner, Luis Scott, but we've a year ago we created the 8-figure firm, which is a consulting firm to help other lawyers and business owners, grow their businesses.
I mean, I think that's great, man. So, like, the things you're doing in the community, I think is fantastic. And that's not just like the public community, but also the professional community. It's very, inspiring. I'm just very proud to know you.
Well, I appreciate
fantastic.
That. I appreciate that, and I'm proud to know you. And this has been a very powerful and impactful podcast, and I can't wait to share it.
No, absolutely.
So thank you for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Matthew, if somebody wants to find you, where do they find you?
Number one, you can find me on social media at Get the W.
Get the W.
Yep. So that's all platforms, Get the W.
Gotcha.
Or you can go to our website at wfirm.com.
Gotcha. As in Get the Wetherington or Get the Win?
You get both when you get me.
You heard it right there. Get the W.
Excellent.
Matthew Wetherington, thank you so much.
Thanks so much.